A wave of despair washed over him. Part of him was human, but most of him was altered. His mind was the only thing that left him, and even that might fail him. He was teetering on the edge of madness, walking the line between man and monster. In his fear and agony, he did only the thing he could. He ran. He ran with impossible speed and strength. His legs, although awkward and ghastly, were incredibly strong. The speed of his flight was quicker than a horse, and in the wild rush he felt a sense of freedom, release. The rush of the wind and the fluttering images of trees and plants whirling past his head, calming him down. A feeling of peace and tranquility washed over him like rain.
He slowed, and then stopped completely. He was alone in the woods that bordered his village. He sat down on a log, which was actually a large tree. The freeing feeling of running was beginning to fade, but he still had a sensation of inner calm. He gathered his thoughts and looked back to his memories, and found many of them were missing. He could not recall the name of his village, and he did not know the song his mother would hum when she bathed him as a child. But above all, he could not remember his own name.
He rose to his feet and lumbered forward. He plodded to a nearby pond and knocked over a tree in the process. He gazed into the clear water of the pond and cried, or roared, out in surprise. His flesh had changed in color to a deathly gray pallor. His teeth had utterly vanished, to reveal a massive gaping maw that hung down to his chest. He stood at roughly 7 feet, and his arms had lengthened. His hands were misshapen and blood-red with hideous black claws in place of nails. He followed the trail he had made in his flight towards town. He had no idea how he was going to communicate with the villagers, but he had to try. He could not handle the tomes of power he had been dabbling with in this form. The hands of a person were needed to turn pages and write runes, not the claws of a beast.
Mama, Ellen called. Mama, what was that? Elena, come here. Come quick. Elena's mother called. Elena dashed into Edmund's room and beheld a heap of old books and smashed bottles. Mama, what happened? Is Edmund okay? Elena's mother had a look of stricken horror painted across her face. Elena, go get your father, and quickly, she shouted. Okay, Mama, Elena said, oblivious to the peril that was near. Elena's mother lifted the door to Edmund's room off the floor and leaned it against the wall. It had been blasted off its hinges by something enormous, and Edmund's bed had been broken to splinters. Something must have stolen her son, something massive. She walked to the mantel above the fireplace in the sitting room, and tentatively lifted the sword hanging above it off its holders. If whatever took her son had hurt him in any way, there would be hell to pay.
As he entered the village, there were no people around. The doors and windows were shut up. The farmers were not attending the fields. He began to wander the streets and came upon one boy who had not yet gone inside. The beast crept up behind him, strangely silent for his large size. The beast attempted to say, "Who are you?" But all that he spoke was, "Mwah." The boy slowly turned about, looked the creature directly in the eye, and screamed in the top of his lungs. The boy ran. He ran quicker than he had run in a very long time. He ducked into a small farmhouse and locked and barricaded the door.
The beast was stunned. He remembered the boy, at least marginally. He could recall his face, but he could not bring up his name. He remembered playing with the boy at least once in his childhood, but still, his name was a vague mystery. The beast lumbered further into town and was greeted by more closed doors and dark windows. He approached his home and heard breathing. Faint, human breathing. It sounded like 3 people, and judging by the smell of it, 2 of them were female. 1 child and 1 adult male, and 1 adult female.
He was surprised by how much he could tell by their scent. He paused to consider this, and felt a pang of hunger in his stomach. He could smell something else, too. Fear. The town was rank with it, and he felt an insatisfiable hunger for it. He felt a need to feed, to devour the flesh of something human or otherwise. He lowered his head to the ground and picked up a scent. Cattle. The village kept cows for occasional meat and milk, and a cow was nearby. He wanted to hunt, but first he would need to hide his horrific appearance. He approached the tailor shop and tore the door off its hinges. He stepped in, knocking over furniture in the process, and he grabbed a large black cloak and donned it. It fit him surprisingly well, despite his abnormal size. He lumbered out of the tailor's and picked up a scent of cattle. The beast was on the prowl. He slunk out of the town quieter than the death of him. He walked out, off and approached the pasture of cattle. A wooden fence surrounded the place, keeping the cattle safe from most wild animals, but not from the beast. The beast leapt over the fence as easily as a fish might swim, and landed on one of the cows. His already massive jaw dropped even further to accommodate the creature, and swallowed it whole. The beast's hunger was sated, at least for now.
Michael the hunter was intrigued. The tracks he had found were fresh and most unusual. The feet of this massive thing were clawed in a rather vicious manner. Whatever made the tracks obviously had the strength to knock entire trees over quite easily. The hunter had killed many bears and wolves in his time, and more than a few trolls as well. But to defeat a creature of this proportion, it'd be something different entirely. Something legends would be told of. The trail led back into town, and he planned on going there anyways. Michael, the young, arrogant hunter, set out to slay whatever beast had caused this, and make the villagers remember for his heroic deeds.
The beast could not help but wander back to the house he had charged out of when he was born. There was something about the place he just couldn't shake. Some sort of memory that he couldn't forget. And besides, maybe the 3 people that lived here might know something about what had happened to him. Maybe they knew the solution to this odd malady. If only he could remember how to cure it. He was sure he knew how a little while ago, but he had forgotten it, along with other things. It was rather strange that this house appeared to have been boarded up. It seems that the people who lived here had taken an extra precaution against whatever was happening. He was curious as to what was going on in this town, which he seemed to know. So he ripped the door out of the wall and stepped through. He was surprised to find the main room which the door opened up into deserted. It appeared to be both a kitchen and a dining room. The beast's curiosity was by no means sated. He continued on into the house in search of the 2 female humans and the 1 male human he smelled.
He stomped through the house following the scent trail. He arrived at a small room, which its door appeared to have been barricaded from the inside. He broke the door into splinters with a single blow. and saw before him the three people. The tiniest one, which was female, screamed, and so did the other female. The male did not scream. He charged the beast with a sword. The beast lifted the man off the floor by his shirt, shook him violently, and threw him against the wall, so hard that he was unconscious almost instantly. The beast looked at the older female, and looked into her eyes. He saw fear in them, but he remembered. He remembered who this person was. It was his mother. An arrow flew through the air and struck the beast, and in the head. He fell to the ground instantly. Michael walked into the small room with a look of triumph on his face. He had done it. He had killed the beast.
The beast stood up, badly injured, bleeding, and near death, but still living. He reached forward with his twisted and clawed hand, grasping Michael by the neck. He wrenched it, violently snapping it easily. He dropped Michael's lifeless body to the floor and turned to his mother. He looked at her face for a mere second. Then he fell to the ground, nearly dead. "Edmund!" his mother screamed as she watched his life slipping away.
She lay in his bed, writhing madly. His mouth was agape, but not a sound escaped. He knew he had failed in the trance, and he knew he should have heeded the warning in the journal. But he didn't. He was in horrid pain, but saw nothing but darkness. A moment later, it happened. His blood boiled and his skin began to stretch. He was becoming something that was by no means human. He had chosen to battle with monsters, and in turn became a monster. His flesh blackened and warped. His hands became misshapen and clawed. His jaw dropped and stretched, forming a hideous gaping maw. He was no man, not anymore. He was a beast.